This is the story of Michael, an American man in his late 40s, who, while seeking refuge in the Alaskan wilderness, encountered an isolated indigenous tribe with a unique tradition of plural marriage for survival, ultimately leading to him fathering children with four of the tribe's women simultaneously. For Michael Thompson, the previous 2 years had felt like the frozen tundra of an Alaskan winter. Everything was frozen, empty, and meaningless. He had once been a promising young architect in Chicago, renowned for his innovative concepts in urban planning and architectural design. However, the cold-blooded betrayal of a long-term partner he trusted like steel, coupled with a series of catastrophic investment failures, had instantaneously destroyed everything. All that he had built with dreams and passion vanished like a mirage. Even his family, whom he considered his everything, had coldly abandoned him. His once fiery heart no longer held any hope. He gave up everything, or rather, fled from it all. He journeyed alone to one of the most remote places on Earth, the vast, desolate wilderness of Alaska, a place largely untouched by human footprints. Perhaps there, in the raw and unforgiving nature, amidst the biting cold, he would either thaw his frozen heart or be utterly shattered, discovering something new in the ruins. His old camera, no longer capturing the glittering skyscrapers of Chicago or the mesmerizing, majestic structures born of human ambition, now documented the poignant lives of vanishing indigenous communities and the unadorned face of nature, preserving an ancient, mystical beauty that resisted the touch of man. His solitary journey stretched endlessly through seemingly infinite boreal forests and frozen expanses. At night, under the pale moonlight, the green auroras danced like the robes of spirits, mysterious and breathtaking. By day, a razor-sharp, bone-chilling wind whipped mercilessly at his face. Then, one day, his path was blocked by a sudden, terrifying blizzard, what locals called a whiteout. Instantly, the line between heaven and earth vanished. Lost in the white darkness, unable to see even an inch ahead, he desperately tried to find his way, but to no avail. His communication devices had long since stopped working, and even the high-energy food bars he carried were nearly exhausted. He yearned for the touch of warmth, but he had gone too far, to a point of no return. Feeling the cold, relentless shadow of death closely following, breathing its icy breath on the back of his neck, he collapsed helplessly onto the white snow, without a shred of regret. Before his gradually blurring eyes, the painful regrets of his rise and fall in Chicago intertwined with a deep, dark despair. The alluring thought of ending it all and finding final peace crept into his fading consciousness. Deep within his vanishing awareness, Michael faintly heard incomprehensible murmurs and the fierce barking of dogs, like a dream. Then, he felt a rough yet comforting sensation, soft furs enveloping his entire body. He struggled to lift his heavy eyelids. Unfolding before his blurred vision was something he had never seen. The traditional dwelling of an unfamiliar indigenous group, a circular lodge made of timber and caribou hides, somewhat resembling a reinforced tent. He faintly smelled the aroma of warm broth rising with the crackling warmth of a fire. For beautiful women surrounded him, looking down with eyes full of concern and curiosity. They were like vibrant fireweeds stubbornly blooming in the harsh Alaskan wilderness, each exuding a unique, strong charm and an unbreakable beauty seemingly unaffected by any hardship. Beside them sat Alara, an elderly native woman with wise eyes and silver-streaked hair, quietly observing Michael. Standing guard was Ethan, a sturdily built young man, his vigilance unwavering. Elena, at 28, was the eldest. Her keen gaze reflected the heavy responsibility for her tribe's precarious future and an unyielding will that never bent to any difficulty. She was the tribe's best hunter, skilled in various herbal remedies, and cared for the sick among her people. Her eyes held a sharp wariness towards the stranger, Michael, but beneath it, a flicker of compassion for a man at death's door. Next was Daria, 25, a woman imbued with an air of mystery and allure, as if from another world. It was said she inherited the mystical lineage of her grandmother, the tribe's great medicine woman, granting her the unique ability to commune with unseen spirits. She was also a talented artist, carving beautiful, soulful sculptures from wood and animal bone, inspired by the harsh Alaskan nature. She also eloquently chanted the tribe's ancient heroic sagas. Her unfathomable eyes seemed to reflect and penetrate all, like a still lake. Irene, 22, was the warmest and kindest of the sisters. With her innate sewing skills, she expertly tailored thick caribou hides into warm and beautiful clothing. She was responsible for the tribe's food supplies. Her gentle care for the sick and young children made her like a nurturing mother to the Yacona tribe, as they called themselves. Her gentle smile was so warm and comforting it seemed to melt the iciest heart, like snow in spring. Finally, Nadia, the youngest at only 20, had not yet shed her innocent girlhood but possessed bright, curious eyes as wild as a mustang. She had a pure and clear heart, loving her tribe more passionately than anyone. She sometimes behaved like a tomboyish adventurer, but in critical moments, she surprised people with astounding courage and resourcefulness, even surpassing her older sisters. They painstakingly introduced themselves as daughters of the Yacona, once a brave and proud people who roamed free as the wind across the vast and majestic Alaskan wilderness. But now, they were a small and weakened group, barely struggling against the irresistible tide of modern civilization and an increasingly harsh natural environment. Michael slowly sipped the warm broth carefully offered by Irene, vaguely realizing he had miraculously survived. Simultaneously, he was gripped by an unknown, strong premonition about what this unexpected, fateful encounter with these four beautiful and mysterious women would mean for his frozen life and the vortex of destiny that awaited him. Alara studied his face intently and said in a low voice, "Stranger, the Great Spirit guided you here. We must all watch and see why." Ethan remained alert, not relaxing his guard, and scrutinized Michael's every subtle movement. Michael stayed in the Yacona tribe's warm lodge. Under the devoted care of Alara and the four sisters, he slowly regained his strength. In the process, he gradually learned about the desperate and tragic reality facing this small, isolated tribe. Years ago, a devastating illness of unknown origin had swept through the tribe like a plague, claiming the lives of most strong men and children with weaker immunity. Now, the remaining men were few, and most were old or weakened by chronic ailments. The tribe was on the brink of a desperate crisis, their lineage possibly facing complete severance. To make matters worse, record-breaking harsh winters over the past few years had pushed even their precious caribou herds, their sole asset and basis for survival, to the edge of extinction. They were in dire straits. Even food for today and tomorrow was scarce. Hunger was a daily occurrence. Daria's grandmother, the tribe's former medicine woman, had said this was all due to the displeasure of the spirits of the land and left an ominous prophecy. Unless new energy came from the outside, the tribe would vanish. The four sisters, without losing hope, lived each day tenaciously, like a life fire that refused to be extinguished even in this suffocating and desperate situation. Elena braved the severe cold daily, trekking through the vast wilderness to hunt, but her days of returning empty-handed were increasing. The burden of the tribe's survival made her shoulders seem even more slumped. Daria spent entire nights before their sacred place, devoutly praying to the Great Spirit for the tribe's well-being and prosperity, sometimes dancing ecstatically, trying to convey the Spirit's messages to the tribe. Irene struggled to conserve the remaining precious food and distribute it fairly among the tribe members, especially the elderly and children, to fill their hungry stomachs as much as possible. Nadia cared for the young children who had lost their smiles due to hunger and cold, telling them fascinating tribal legends and playing with them, trying to make them temporarily forget their suffering. Michael silently watched their tearful and desperate struggle for survival, feeling something searing and intense rise from deep within him, along with profound pain and compassion. He didn't hesitate to offer his few remaining medical supplies to treat the sick and utilized all his experience and knowledge as a once successful architect to provide practical help in building new, sturdier, warmer lodges to withstand blizzards and cold, or in repairing old ones. His unsparing, sincere actions and dedicated efforts slowly but surely began to open the stubbornly closed hearts of the Yacona people. Ethan, initially suspicious, gradually opened up to him as he saw Michael work silently and treat the tribe members with sincerity, and began to teach him the skills of nomadic life. Then, one evening, Kalen, the tribe's sole remaining elder and the four sisters' aging father, pale and gaunt, quietly summoned Michael to his lodge. His face was filled with an unknown depth of sorrow and a firm resolve. Kalen began to speak in a trembling voice about the last hope that had been secretly passed down in the Yakona tribe for centuries but had never yet been implemented, a unique and shocking custom of survival union. This was the most desperate and sacred final ritual. When the tribe was in a hopeless crisis that could not be overcome by any means, they would offer the tribe's most beautiful and healthy women to a strong, healthy, and intelligent man from the outside world. Through him, they would receive new bloodline to barely continue the tribe's precarious lineage. This shocking custom, from an outsider's perspective, might be difficult to understand, perhaps even seen as barbaric and immoral. In reality, for the Yakona, it was the last resort for the survival and preservation of their entire people, a desperate and earnest survival strategy based on the noble and voluntary sacrifice of the tribe's women. Kalen, shedding endless tears, gripped Michael's hand and earnestly pleaded, "Young man, you might be the last chance the Great Spirit has sent us, the Yakona tribe. Please, please become our tribe's son-in-law, become my daughter's husband. They are more precious to me than my own life. Conceive new life with them, and revive the dying flame of our Yakona tribe." This is old Kalen's last heartfelt wish in life. His voice, nearing a scream, shook Michael's heart violently. Faced with Kalen's overwhelmingly shocking and heavy request, Michael was too stunned to speak, as if his heart had dropped to his feet. His mind went blank, as if a strong anxiety had consumed everything, then filled with uncontrollable confusion. Survival union. It was a bizarre and shocking story he couldn't accept or comprehend with all the common sense and morality he had possessed his entire life. But Kalen's pleading eyes, burning like a final flame, and the silent, tear-streaked, deeply sorrowful, beautiful faces of the four sisters, pressed down on his heart like lead and tightened his breath. From that night on, he couldn't sleep for days, immersed in deep, unending anguish. He had no idea if he could fully bear this enormous and overwhelming responsibility, nor how he should accept this unfamiliar, anticipatory culture and inevitable, fateful encounter. His heart felt as if it were torn into 1,000 pieces. The four sisters, too, each in their own way, were plunged into profound and painful conflict and heartbreaking sorrow. Elena, understanding more painfully than anyone the grim and realistic crisis facing the tribe, intellectually understood her old father's agonizing proposal. But on the other hand, as a woman, she suffered deep pain and shame all night, as if her and her sister's fates had been reduced to tools for the tribe's prosperity. She somewhat acknowledged the strength Michael outwardly displayed and the wisdom hidden within him, but the cruel reality of having to entrust her entire future and that of her beloved sisters to a stranger she had barely met was too terrifying and difficult to accept. She couldn't sleep each night, constantly worrying if Michael was truly trustworthy and if he could make their sacrifice worthwhile. Daria, with her mystical aura, tried to see all this as the irresistible tide of a great destiny. She consoled herself that Michael's sudden appearance might be the Great Spirit's grand intention and sacred revelation to save the Yakona tribe in crisis. She recalled the ancient teachings and ominous prophecies left by her medicine woman grandmother. But even she couldn't hide her deep anxiety as a woman about the unknown future and worldly sorrow. Every night, while watching the stars, she prayed devoutly to the Great Spirit, a prayer that sometimes turned into a mournful song, soaking the cold Alaskan night sky. Irene, with her warm personality, was the first among the four sisters to feel human sympathy and a glimmer of hope towards Michael. She carefully thought that perhaps she could find new hope from this desperate situation through the unwavering warmth and sincerity Michael had shown. But even she secretly suffered all night from the deep fear of the unpredictable future that her father's sudden decision would bring, and the heartbreaking guilt towards her fiancé, who had tragically died in the plague long ago. She saw a shadow of her deceased fiancé in Michael. The free-spirited youngest sister, Nadia, initially rebelled most fiercely and strongly among the four sisters against their father's unilateral proposal. She wanted to decide her own destiny, not have it decided by others. She couldn't accept having to entrust her entire life to a stranger she had never met. But the tribe's overwhelmingly desperate situation, the deep sorrow of her beloved sisters, and Michael's unwavering and sincere demeanor shown in a short time were, little by little, but surely, shaking her firm and stubborn heart. She gradually dispelled her prejudice against him as she saw Michael risk danger to bring them firewood or care for a sick child throughout the night. In the following days, Michael hunted with the four sisters in the severe cold, repaired their precarious lodges, and mingled with the tribe's hungry children, gaining a deeper understanding of their impoverished and difficult lives. He gradually became deeply captivated by their unwavering resilience in desperate situations, their innocence in cherishing and embracing each other amidst any difficulty, and their beautiful and strong souls that never gave up the thread of hope even in deep despair. Especially Elena's amazing courage and sense of responsibility, as she risked her life, bravely plunging into a massive snowdrift to save a small caribou calf that had been lost in the severe cold. Irene's wholehearted warmth, as she stayed by a sick child, delirious with fever, all night, carefully nursing her. Daria's mystical presence, singing beautiful and hopeful traditional songs with a heavenly voice to change the desperate atmosphere enveloping the entire tribe. And the youngest, Nadia's pure and loving heart, still unskilled but doing her best to help Michael, carrying heavy firewood with her small hands or boiling hot tea. Little by little, but surely, they melted his frozen heart. He finally realized that this unique and shocking custom of survival union was not simply a barbaric and uncivilized practice, but a desperate, tearful struggle for survival, born out of a cornered, no-way-out desperation and extreme circumstances, and a final, earnest, and noble wish for the future of a dying tribe. He could no longer refuse them. Something searing began to surge violently within his chest. Finally, after a long and agonizing period of deliberation, Michael made a momentous decision, staking his remaining life on it. He decided to no longer wander aimlessly, bound by his dark and failed past. He firmly resolved to bravely start a new life on this impoverished and harsh Alaskan land with these pure, strong, beautiful souls. He quietly knelt before old Kalen, his four daughters, the tribal elder Alara, and the watchful, loyal Ethan, and said in a trembling voice, with unprecedented sincerity and a determined tone, I dare to share your heavy and noble destiny. I will dedicate all that I have left, without reservation, to become the new fire of hope for the Yakona tribe, to be your dependable and considerate husband, and the proud father of your children. Hearing his sincere and solemn confession, old Kalen shed hot, strong tears. The four sisters, too, could no longer hold back, gripping his strong hand and silently shedding hot tears. Their tears were a collection of scorching and pure emotions, a complex mixture of deep sorrow, relief from long-suppressed anxiety, unknown fear of a new beginning, and a glimmer of hope. That night in the Alaskan sky, as if to bless their future, more dazzling stars than ever before shone like a river of silver. According to the Yakona tribe's ancient traditions and sacred customs passed down through generations, Michael and the four sisters respectfully held a solemn and sacred ceremony before a massive bonfire that burned fiercely all night, informing the great spirits of the tribe of their sacred union and solemnly vowing eternal love and unwavering devotion. Elena, looking directly at Michael with an unwavering gaze, respectfully handed him the tribe's most precious treasures, a bow and arrow symbolizing courage and skill. The mystical Daria hung a small carving, resembling a forest spirit, that she had crafted all night, around his neck and sang a song of blessing in a clear, resonant voice, wishing for the tribe's well-being and prosperity. The warm Irene dressed him in warm and soft caribou hide clothes she had made with all her heart. The innocent youngest sister, Nadia, carefully placed a beautiful wreath made of small, pretty wildflowers she had painstakingly found in the early spring snow on his head, with a shy yet radiant smile. Michael felt deeply moved by their unblemished, pure, and sincere hearts, and firmly vowed to the stars in the sky and the spirits of the earth that he would cherish, love, and protect them through any danger and difficulty, risking his entire life. Their tearful and noble commitment seemed to shine forever, like the countless stars illuminating the Alaskan night sky. A few days later, as if having completed his final mission, old Kalen peacefully and serenely closed his eyes, accompanied by his beloved daughters, new son-in-law, and tribe members. His passing was a great sorrow for the Yacona tribe, but at the same time, it was a signal marking the important beginning of new hope sprouting from the lens of despair. Michael now had to become the sole hope of the Yacona tribe, and the strong, unwavering support for his 4 beautiful wives and future children. His shoulders were heavy, but his heart was filled with an unprecedented, fervent determination. The beginning of their new life was never as beautiful or smooth as a rose garden. Giving up deeply ingrained urban life habits of decades and perfectly adapting to the harsh, nomadic life in Alaska was not as easy as he had imagined. Building a harmonious family with 4 wives who had completely different cultures and languages was also a daily series of new, daunting challenges for him. But they did not blame each other or feel disappointed by each other's shortcomings. Instead, they steadfastly and wisely relied on and learned from each other, overcoming all difficulties and hardships together. Elena patiently taught Michael how to hunt in the rugged wilderness without getting lost, how to skillfully manage the hardy caribou herd, and the wisdom of predicting the ever-changing Alaskan weather. The mystical Daria captivated his heart by telling fascinating stories about the Yacona tribe's long history, beautiful traditions, and their profound spiritual world that worshipped nature and spirits. The warm Irene comforted his tired, hungry body and lonely heart daily with warm food prepared with her heart and utmost meticulous care. The cheerful youngest sister, Nadia, with her unique sunny, positive energy and endless cheerful laughter, injected fresh vitality into the tribe's atmosphere, which sometimes became stagnant and heavy. They all did their utmost to help Michael adapt well to nomadic life and embraced his clumsy mistakes with warm smiles. Michael, too, unreservedly dedicated all his wisdom, abilities, and experience, and wholeheartedly strove for his beloved wives and the declining tribe. He revived his experience as a renowned architect in Chicago and taught the tribe innovative methods for building new, sturdier, warmer, and more efficient lodges that could effectively block the severe Alaskan cold and fierce blizzards. He utilized his various scientific knowledge and information obtained from the outside world to provide practical help in gradually improving the tribe's impoverished and uncomfortable living environment. He loved and deeply respected his 4 wives equally, never discriminating against them even for a moment, and cherished and praised each of their unique personalities and special beauty. His unwavering, sincere, deep love and devotion, unshaken in any situation, captivated the hearts of the 4 sisters more profoundly and strongly than ever before. A feeling deeper and nobler than any other passionate love in the world was blooming among them like a great river. They were now becoming true life partners and comrades, deeply understanding and relying on each other's souls, not just as couples. That winter was unusually long and severe, unprecedented in Alaskan history. As stored food quickly ran out, and even firewood became difficult to find, the entire tribe fell into despair and fear. To make matters worse, the neighboring, greedy Raven Shadow clan, having lost their senses due to hunger, launched a vile ambush on their precious caribou herd at night. In this moment of absolute crisis, Michael was no longer the weak city dweller of the past. He bravely led the tribe members, alongside his beloved wives, fighting courageously without flinching. Elena, like a warrior woman by his side, displayed her unerring archery skills, felling enemies. The mystical Daria chanted bewildering incantations and utilized the power of spirits to throw the enemy into extreme confusion and fear. The warm Irene risked her life to quickly treat the wounded during the battle, while the brave youngest sister, Nadia, passionately encouraged the tribe's young men, raising their courage despite her youth. Thanks to their life-risking, desperate resistance and Michael's brilliant strategy filled with clever wisdom, They were finally able to defeat the numerically superior enemy and safely protect their beloved tribe and families. Through this fierce and heroic event, Michael was deeply recognized in everyone's hearts as the true leader and great hero of the Yacona tribe. His noble love with his 4 wives became even more solid and beautiful through the trial. Between Michael and his beloved wives, who had bravely overcome severe and cruel trials together, a trust deeper and stronger than any words could express was beautifully established, accompanied by a fervent love that seemed as if it would never change. Finally, their profound and miraculous love began to bear the most beautiful and revered fruit on the frozen lands of Alaska. The astonishing and mystical blessing of all 4 wives becoming pregnant with new life, almost at the same time, had descended upon them. The lodge was soon filled with the heartwarming excitement and fervent anticipation of expectant mothers awaiting their babies. Michael felt a heavy sense of responsibility, and at the same time, a joy that made him ponder all night the overwhelming thought of becoming a father to several children. He couldn't believe he would become a father to several children at what felt like an advanced age. The original text mentions nearly 60, which implies some years have passed or he aged significantly. We'll say, in his mature years. But at the same time, he felt an overwhelming happiness welling up from deep within him and an infinite sense of responsibility to protect these precious lives with his entire being, forever. Day and night, he cared for his 4 wives more meticulously and gently than he cared for his own body. He woke up early every morning and unhesitatingly climbed rugged mountain paths to find fresh berries and herbs his wives craved. He also made special food for his wives who were suffering from morning sickness. He also personally and carefully carved soft wood, though unskilled, to make small, adorable cradles and cute animal-shaped toys for the precious children soon to arrive in this world. His sincere touch was filled with deep love and anticipation for his children. The tribe's great elder, Alara, helped the 4 women with childbirth like a real mother and generously shared her traditional wisdom. The loyal Ethan and the townspeople sincerely wished them safe delivery and sent abundant congratulations and encouragement. Finally, after a long 10 months of waiting, new lives filled with heaven's clear and pure energy simultaneously presented their healthy and lovely first faces to the world with loud cries, as if they had promised. Elena miraculously gave birth to a strong and energetic son, just like his father. Daria, an artist with rich artistic sensibility, gave birth to a beautiful princess who inherited her mother's mystical beauty and delicate artistic sense. The warm-hearted Irene gave birth to a gentle and free-spirited son, and the curious and lovely youngest sister, Nadia, gave birth to a pair of healthy and adorable twin daughters. The lodge was filled with the loud and energetic cries of children, the joy and emotion of the families, and scalding tears. Michael instantly became the proud father of 5 children. His simple family quickly transformed into a large family filled with the cheerful laughter of children and happy warmth. The children's birth was a great blessing to the entire declining Yacona tribe, a sign of brilliant hope miraculously saved from the abyss of despair, and the noble result of a sublime and great love that bravely overcame all adversities and trials. Michael held his 5 children one by one in his arms, silently looking at the vast and majestic Alaskan night sky, shedding endless tears of gratitude for the astonishing and brilliant blessing that had miraculously descended upon his later life. His tears were no longer tears of past despair or painful regret, but tears filled with gratitude, extreme happiness, and eternal, unwavering love. Time flowed as quickly and powerfully as a great Alaskan river. Michael became an old man with hair as white as snow, free and dignified. His beloved 4 wives also became respected women, gently cherishing deep wisdom about life, along with the beautiful marks of time. Their lovely children, even in the harsh Alaskan winds, wonderfully grew into talented and brave young men and beautiful and wise young women. Now they had become reliable pillars who would bear the future of the Yacona tribe. The new wisdom Michael brought from distant Chicago and the Yacona tribe's long-standing traditions passed down through generations blended perfectly. The once endangered Yakona tribe dazzlingly developed into a community more prosperous, strong, and wise than ever before. His turbulent life, like a strong and beautiful fireweed flower, had miraculously bloomed on the impoverished and frozen land of Alaska. Ironically, at the moment he had lost everything in despair, he gained the most precious and valuable things in the world: a warm family he couldn't replace with anything, and a noble meaning in life to which he could dedicate his entire being. On a deep winter night, with a blizzard raging outside, Michael, in a warm and comfortable lodge, surrounded by his loving wives, fully grown children, and adorable grandchildren, very quietly and peacefully closed his final eyes. His face, full of wisdom and love, bore a deep and serene smile, as if he were a young child again. His special and great story would be passed down among the Yakona people, becoming a miraculous and beautifully moving legend, like the mysterious and majestic aurora borealis of the Alaskan night sky, forever an unending, beautiful song. His tearful and noble love teaches all of us living today that true love is a noble and great commitment that perfectly transcends all limitations of borders, cultures, ages, and customs, where soul and soul become one. A lone blue star shining in the Alaskan night sky will continue to whisper their miraculous and beautiful love story to people all over the world, unchanged today. This whisper will help us realize that only true courage, sacrifice, and unwavering love can make hope bloom and create miracles even in despair. The story of Michael and the 4 daughters of the Yakona tribe, unfolding in the harsh Alaskan wilderness, transcends a simple love story to contain profound wisdom and lessons of life that we can discover in the many trials and choices we face in life. Through their tearful journey, we can learn valuable principles. Michael, who thought he had lost everything, found the meaning and purpose of his life center through his encounter with the 4 women on the frozen land of Alaska. This shows us that even in life's darkest moments, if we never give up hope, opportunities for new beginnings may arise from unexpected places. He gives us the courage to recognize that despair is not an end, but a new turning point. Michael, who felt empty in the glamorous city life of Chicago, found true happiness in his simple and sincere relationships with the Yakona tribe. This makes us realize the important truth that true contentment and happiness stem from deep emotional connections and love with others, not from external conditions or material wealth, but from mutual dedication. When faced with the unique and shocking custom of survival union, Michael initially felt bewildered but eventually understood the tribe's desperate will for survival and the noble hearts behind protecting their families. This reminds us of the importance of looking beyond the superficial differences of diverse cultures and customs to discover and embrace the universal human values of love and respect contained within. True understanding begins with acknowledging difference. The Yakona tribe and Michael together experienced numerous trials, such as harsh natural environments, hunger, and external threats. But instead of being discouraged, they relied on each other, worked together to overcome crises, and grew into a stronger community. This shows us that life's difficulties are not meant to knock us down, but can be opportunities for us to grow stronger, for our inner selves to develop, and for us to recognize each other's preciousness. The relationship between Michael and the 4 sisters might be a form difficult to understand from the world's common perspective, but they deeply respected and cherished each other, forming a true family whose bonds were closer than any blood tie. This shows us that forms of love and family are not limited to established frameworks, but can be redefined and expanded as much as possible within each other's sincere hearts and dedication. Michael made the difficult decision to take responsibility for the future of the Yakona tribe and the lives of the 4 sisters, and fulfilled that commitment by dedicating everything he had. His dedicated life shows us the image of a true adult and how much emotion and change noble human love, capable of willingly sacrificing oneself for others, can create. The great Alaskan wilderness was the Yakona tribe's space for survival and, at the same time, an object to be overcome. They submitted to nature, learned its wisdom, and lived by it. This reminds us that we too need to recognize the greatness and preciousness of nature, learn humility from it, and find ways to live in harmony within it. Michael was an outsider, but he treated the tribal people with sincerity, sympathized with their suffering, and showed wisdom and courage in crisis situations, thus being recognized as the tribe's true leader. This teaches us that true leadership stems not from authority or power, but from deep understanding and compassion for others, and dedicated service to the community. The story of Michael and the four women tells us that life may be a series of unpredictable trials, but with love, faith, courage, and dedication, we can create miracles. Through their lives, we can gain the courage not to lose hope in the difficulties we encounter in our respective lives, and to cherish sincere relationships with those around us, thereby moving towards a more meaningful and valuable life. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe, like, and comment.